Fatima is missing. We know that she's afraid.
I'm trying to protect you.
They think that we don't have what it takes to find her.
What is it? She wants us to follow her.
We proved that this place couldn't break us. Stop! You can either lay down and die, or we can sing. We're taking our lives back.
What is up, everybody? Jeremy Eisenfire here, and welcome to the channel. As Season 3 of From begins to come to a close, we are finally starting to get some definitive answers about long-awaited questions that we have been waiting for ever since the series first began. And with still 2 episodes remaining in the season, both titled Revelations Part 1 and Part 2, I get the feeling we have some even bigger answers coming on the horizon. And as we approach the penultimate episode, it looks like storylines are beginning to converge, gearing up for a pretty big finale. And judging by the Episode 9 trailer, it looks like the intensity is only going to continue to rise. The trailer starts off with Boyd addressing the entire town outside of the diner, informing all of them that Fatima has gone missing, as Boyd gives a motivational speech urging the citizens of Fromville to not give up, and it seems like Boyd is trying to win a little bit of their trust back. After all, we did hear Donna state in Episode 8 that the town is beginning to lose a little bit of their faith in Boyd's leadership and questioning his judgment, followed by a shot of Fatima herself and Elgin down in the hidden room in the root cellar, and we can start to see that Fatima is actually beginning to show, confirming that she is indeed pregnant with this kimono creature's baby, with Elgin stating that he is doing all this to keep Fatima safe. Whatever the kimono creature stated to Elgin, she certainly seemed to have a pretty good effect and a very good manipulation tactic, as he seems to be doing everything she says, and even making Elgin believe that it is for Fatima's own good, which I get the feeling it is most likely not. And now with her stomach starting to show, I guess the question remains, what exactly will she be giving birth to, and will she even survive the process? One thing we saw in Episode 8 was Elgin taking a few different vials of his own blood and bringing them down to the root cellar, most likely in order to nourish Fatima and the baby further. And given the fact that the baby has been snacking on dead food, rotten food, and human blood, I certainly get the feeling this is not going to be a normal human baby, something more on the supernatural side, most likely. Many of us have been wondering ever since Smiley got killed in Season 2, does a similar balance exist on the monster side as it does on the human side? Up until this point, every time we see a human member of Fromville get killed, it seems like a new member arrives in the town to take their place, almost like there is some sort of balance that needs to be maintained in terms of how many people are in the town at any given time. But now that we are down one monster, many of us are left to wonder, does a new monster need to be created to replace Smiley? And if so, could that be what Fatima is actually giving birth to? Or is there a chance that this is actually just a normal human child that she is going to be giving birth to after all, one that the kimono creature is hoping to take from her, perhaps in an attempt to replace the baby that she potentially lost while she was still alive? Whatever the case may be, I am certainly very concerned for Fatima's longevity in terms of surviving this pregnancy. We also see in the trailer a shot of one of the Ankui children beckoning Tabitha to follow her into the woods. In Episode 8, we learn some pretty interesting revelations about the children and some of the origins of the Farway trees in Fromville, as the boy in white stated that this all began with the children long ago, when they were seemingly sacrificed by their very own loved ones, potentially even by their own parents. But it seems like when they were laid on these stones, which of course is the same vision that Jade saw at the end of Season 2, they poured all of their last remaining hope into the roots above them, which later became the first Farway tree, which finally gave us a definitive origin for where these trees originally came from. So it's going to be interesting to see where this Ankui child is luring Tabitha to and what she is going to show her next. Maybe we can actually learn some more definitive information as to who these trusted loved ones were that sacrificed these Ankui children in the first place, and if it was indeed their very own parents. And if so, what exactly happened to them, and what exactly were they hoping to achieve by doing this sacrifice in the first place? But next, we get an interesting shot of Sarah seemingly writhing in pain, very similar to how she reacts when she is receiving a message from some of the spirits that she is able to tap into every now and then. So it's interesting to see that Sarah does still have the ability to communicate with some of these disembodied spirits. After all, it has been quite a while since she has communicated with anything else in this manner, not since the very end of Season 2 when Kenny and Boyd bring her to the ruins and she directly connects with the entity have we seen Sarah use her abilities. So I guess the question remains, who or what exactly is trying to communicate with Sarah, and what are they trying to tell her? And could it potentially be used to help save Fatima? And is she using her abilities potentially at the behest of Boyd? Does Boyd potentially come to Sarah and ask her to try and reach out into the ether to learn anything she can about Fatima's location? And Sarah herself has been on a pretty interesting redemption arc ever since the end of Season 1, where she is genuinely trying to make up for the misdeeds and sins of her past. But if Episode 8 is any indication, based on some of the reactions of the townsfolk in the wake of the death of Tilly, with many of them already suspecting that it was Sarah who committed the act, she certainly still has a long ways to go. But next we see a shot of Randall seemingly being visited by the cicadas once again. And clearly, whatever is happening to Julie, Randall, and Mari, it is definitely not over, as we have seen clear indications for each one of them still experiencing some of these cicada phenomenon, giving us a very unique representation of sight, sound, and touch, where Randall is still seeing these cicadas, Julie is still hearing the screaming, and Mari is still feeling these cicadas crawling all over her from time to time. And whatever is happening to the three of them, I certainly get the feeling that it is all going to lead back to the ruins. After some of the revelations we got in Episode 8 of Julie visiting these ruins once again, and seemingly slipping into some sort of time displacement as she visited a few different timelines, including giving us as the audience a definitive answer as to who actually dropped that rope down to Boyd, since a lot of us thought it could not be Martin as he was chained to the wall at the time. But I get the feeling eventually all three of their paths will lead back to these ruins. Maybe all three of them need to travel here together to finally get some definitive answers as to what is happening to them and why. But next we get one of the most interesting scenes in the entire trailer, as we see Victor taking an axe to the Farway tree, as the boy in white appears out of nowhere, urging Victor to stop. And I get the feeling that Victor's choice to return to the bottle Farway tree and attempt to chop it down is most likely going to be tied to his guilt. After all, we learned in Episode 8 that young Victor overheard the story that the boy in white was telling to Christopher about how he needs to go into the Farway tree to save the children. But it seems like Christopher was not believing the boy in white, so in turn, Victor retold this whole story to his mother, which sent Miranda on her journey to try and find the tree and save the children, which ultimately led to her death. So I certainly get the feeling that Victor is going to be feeling a lot of guilt, knowing that his story directly led to his mother's death. And perhaps in an act of revenge, he is going to try and take out the Farway tree. Or is there another possibility that Victor is potentially doing this as one giant ruse to lure the boy in white to him to finally get some definitive answers? Maybe Victor was hoping that the boy in white would show up if he tried to take the tree down, seeing as the tree seems to be very pivotal to what is going on here in Fromville and its very origins. Whatever the case ends up being, we are certainly entering a very exciting phase in the storytelling on From, as it seems like definitive answers are finally just around the corner. But next, the trailer ends with Boyd delivering the rest of his speech, stating that we can either lay down and die, or we can take our lives back, as we see some interesting shots playing in the background, starting with a shot of Boyd himself inside the sheriff's station at night, looking outside of the window with one of the nurse monsters outside taunting him, followed by another shot of Julie back inside the ruins, which could either be a reused shot from Episode 8 when she was previously inside there, or it could potentially be her returning to these ruins yet again. Perhaps the urge to learn more answers on Julie's part was simply too strong and she does indeed return there, looking to discover a little bit more. And if so, I can only imagine what she is going to see this time. Last time she was there, it seems like Ethan, Kenny, and Acosta showed up and pulled her out just before she was about to see the Ankui children, as she was seemingly following the sound of their voice, leading to an open chamber that seemed to have light coming from it, but unfortunately she did not get to see what was on the other side of that corner before waking up. But I wouldn't be too surprised if she was on the verge of seeing the actual sacrifice take place that these Ankui children were put through, and perhaps even a glimpse at the perpetrators themselves. But then the trailer ends with a quick montage of showing Donna walking inside Colony House, a quick shot of Jim with a concerned look on his face, followed by a shot of Tabitha seemingly running towards something. So if nothing else, it seems like things are really beginning to heat up inside Fromville as we approach these final 2 episodes, and it looks like we are even on the verge of getting some more big definitive answers, ones that we have been probably waiting a very long time for, and ones I get the feeling that are probably going to be pretty profound, and will likely even lead to new questions heading into Season 4. especially if they continue to follow the laid out format up until this point where each season ends on a pretty big cliffhanger. But whatever the case, it is certainly very exciting knowing that we are on the cusp of real answers for a change and seeing this plot move forward in a pretty meaningful way. So definitely leave your thoughts and predictions down below for episode 9. Where do you think the story is going, and what storylines are you looking forward to seeing the most? But that is going to do it for our episode 9 trailer breakdown for Revelations Part 1. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like on your way out and consider subscribing to stay up to date on all of our upcoming content. And as always, keep those tinfoil hats on, folks, and I will see you on the next one.
Fatima is missing. We know that she's afraid.
I'm trying to protect you.
They think that we don't have what it takes to find her.
What is it? She wants us to follow her.
We proved that this place couldn't break us. Stop! We can either lay down and die, or we can say, we're taking our lives back.
Okay, ding-dongs. If you don't subscribe to Jeremy Eyes and Fire, you're gonna spend the night in the box.